Guys, change my screen really
See.
fast.
Hey, so there's a Miro link in the chat. It links directly to the board for today. And just in case you're stumbling upon this meeting from elsewhere, hey, it's the 7th of March, 2024. This is Gimbalabs Open Spaces. We get together on Wednesdays and Thursdays to make plans and to build stuff. So I'll share a screen right here. We've been working on Miro since the start of the year. We did some work to go through the process of writing a driver together, and that driver is here. We are here in an attempt to provide open, replicable, safe spaces to learn, to explore, and to empower individuals and organizations anywhere so that we can solve meaningful problems. We defined a couple of circles of possible work. You can see those. And the way we start this session each time is that we give everybody just a couple minutes. I'll set a timer for 2 minutes to grab some sticky notes. And if there's something that you'd like to work on today, talk about, or otherwise, just grab one of these sticky notes, fill it out, drag it around, feel free to make connections. And at the end of 2 minutes, we'll see what we've got and we'll make some decisions about what to do. Any questions about what's about to happen? All right. If for any reason you don't have access to Miro, feel free to drop things in the chat and I'll grab those and add those to stickies as well. I'll start the clock and see you in 2 minutes. All right. And Steve cracked me up. He just sent a message in the background saying, can't make it today, have to pick up a cow. So we can ask him about that later. So what's everybody got? We yesterday we just moved from left to right. I see that there's nothing, nobody jumped into the main room yet, so we might be able to drag something over there. But moving through, the first one I come to is this is the one I added. I would be willing to spend time just starting to live write a proposal in the new Notion system that we're starting to use about delivering PPBL 2024. I see some related stickies. Does anybody want to talk about any of these that they added?
I added those because I thought it was a topic we're going to discuss today. Like, are we going to reorganize the whole content of the PBL last year? We leave it as it is and we focus on what had to continue. Are we going to start anew? I'm not sure what's the how you're going to propose that. And then, discuss, since you're organizing Mesh PBL and maybe Tandanium PBL, we might talk about on the content of PBL 2023, 2024 in relation to the content of these other courses as well, right? And I think there may be material that we might not need to cover as PBL material, but it might be of interest for people to sprint out into study groups like Haskell, Rust, things like that. So that's a parallel track that we should consider, I think. So that's my proposal.
That's awesome. Oh, Claudio, yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about this stuff. I think we have a lot of alignment already. Very cool. So I just put connection lines between these. I think all of this is connected. And so this would be a great candidate for a room today. How about up here, Newman? You've been preparing for games live coding. What you got?
Yeah, that's sort of. Oh, can you hear me? Yep, good. So yeah, getting ready for the games. Yesterday, I started up a social media campaign, and I've started to make contacts. So continuing to do that, and then try to get to the agenda, have some agenda ideas and whatnot. So I may break off and do that. I meant to do that yesterday, but it got so interesting. It's no big deal. I definitely don't want to over prepare for the playground. I don't that doesn't that sort of defeats the purpose of a playground, but I want to prepare the correct amount. And then the other one would be the backlog in the community circle. Looking through the Discord and trying to find those tensions and that process of proposal forming. So whatever in this proposal writing, focused on the PBL, it would be cool to look at some of the things that we identified in the main driver mapping, like what are in the community circle and like what's the next for us as a community circle. So yeah.
This is a really good reminder that we're still on this board where we drafted our primary driver. But remember that when we went through this whole process of creating all sorts of other ideas and things we could pick up. And so like Newman's saying, that's a great reminder to just maybe periodically revisit this stuff and see, hey, is there a thread or a driver that I want to pick up?
Yeah.
Awesome. This is gold right here. This is, over time, I hope we do all these things.
And that's what Nori really made that clear. He's just like, this is the work we're spending, because it did feel like it's like, man, we're spending a whole day on doing this, but it's like, no. This before we start with down a thread, it's just like this is the headwaters, like these are the little things, the seeds that are up there. So that's kind of our seed bank, and it's nice to go back to it, and especially with this process of looking at and being intentional about the proposal and getting it into the serialized format so that it can get into the machine, yeah.
If you have any, can you drop social links here for everybody else to grab if there's stuff that we can repost or anything?
I've been posting all on Newman 5 on X. But and I've been using Buffer, which is actually kind of a fun tool to use. It's like a social media managing tool. And I can, if you follow Newman 5, but if you're interested in that, just hit me up.
Cool. Thank you. And then this one, consulting with Hinson about building the website.
That was me. So Hinson mentioned something about having a template for like the community, specifically when it's translated into when PPBL or one of the courses is translated into a different language in a different region. So he suggested like a template for a website for the community. So I was thinking we could just like build it using AI. I mean, not as like a end goal, but just to practice to see if it's good enough or not. If it's not good enough, it's fine. But if it's good enough, we could use it. And I also get to practice building using AI. So I thought it would be a win-win. So yeah.
I saw a message from Newman yesterday as well about updating the gimbalabs.com site. And I was just so excited to see that organically coming up, because that's project that if somebody else doesn't beat me to it, I can't wait to write that project proposal. Let's deploy some funds and teach some other people how to use this site. So Harsha, it sounds like you're taking it to another level of saying, well, in addition to that, we can have templates for localization. Yeah, I think there's a really exciting project there. Thanks for raising that. Okay. So for today, I'm really excited to jump into the PPBL writing stuff by first, we could almost say this is a tension right here. Oh, we have unfinished work from 2023. Great, right? This can drive proposal writing and we can connect some of these dots. So I would love to spend time doing that in a collaborative setting and jumping into Notion to write a project proposal. So that's one possible room. I can open up a breakout room, Newman, for the games prep.
Yeah, that would be great. And I mean, I'm going to try to do it like I did, because I love these 30 minutes. This first 30 minutes of the live coding is kind of like our in my mind, like a coffee break. It's just like, yeah, we're everybody's hanging out, we're telling stories. Mix rolls in, a new guy shows up. Hey, new guy. Oh, this so-and-so guy. Oh, okay. We're drinking our coffee, and then we're like, okay, what do we need? We put it all in. It's it's mildly, lightly facilitated. And then I wouldn't mind spending like 30 minutes on that main room, and like, okay, what's the big thing? And then try to shift over into my own thing. So that's my goal, is that like at like 10:30 my time, in about 30 minutes to break off and get some good focused attention on that upcoming playground next week. And just talk about games, think about games, and write things down.
So I opened up the breakout rooms. Would there be any objections, though, to starting here in the main room and crafting a proposal together?
I think that'd be fun.
Okay. So this is all connected to the education circle, but I'll drag it for now. This is what we'll do in the main room today. This is what will keep live streaming. And so let's see what happens. I'm going to switch screens then and jump right into this. I've been really looking forward to jumping in here. Harsha.
I was just curious. So every time we decide to work on something, do we have to put a proposal forward? Like, how are you thinking about it?
Great question. Okay, so the answer is we don't know yet, right? We might find that writing a complete S3 style proposal is just too heavy of a process to try to do it every time we want to do anything, right? So I would love to try getting to the point where we see some kind of tension like that maybe emerge. And then when it does, figure out together what we do about that. The other thing is, once a proposal is approved and moving forward with it, it's most likely that it's going to be broken down into tasks. And often, maybe a lot of those tasks are going to be the things that people really want to do anyway. So we'll have this big picture frame of a project that's ready to go, and then do it in such a way that people can find the ways that they want to contribute.
Makes sense. So it's almost like a commitment. When you put a proposal forward, you're committing to the work. Okay, got it. Yeah.
And we'll look at this today, right? Part of the proposal document is, hey, who's going to be responsible for what? And what do they need to do? So hopefully, even by jumping into this process, we can make progress on that. Juan, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm thinking that just to expand a little bit on what you said. I think that my goal is to get to the point where I internally will see every proposal, every idea as a proposal, and internally will work on that, naturally. So we don't have to propose to make a proposal, but we get the way it works internally, and it will be more seamless, I guess. So sympathy trip.
And this is one of the core things that draws me to sociocracy, is that when we engage with it, we kind of discover the next things naturally, right? You try a project, for example, so that new tensions can emerge. And then you talk about those tensions so that new projects can emerge, and there's a virtuous cycle. Right? So there's other systems like that. So let's see what happens here. I'm dropping a public link to this new page right here, and I'll share it on the screen. So, whoops, that's the whole screen though. I want to focus on Notion. Here we go. So this is a free trial Gimbalabs Notion account. We're not paying for anything yet, even though we approved it yesterday. And this public page has very rough documentation of what can become more robust over time. But here's a really high level view of what people can do. You can go to this link. If you make a free account, you'll be able to both look at and make a copy of the project proposal template. If you are logged in with an account, you should see a copy icon. If you click it, a copy of the document will be added to your personal account, which is where you can flesh out a proposal, and then you can bring it back to the rest of the team by publishing and sharing. Okay. We'll practice this process later, and we're going to have to improve these documents over time. But this is just a placeholder for where robust instructions can go. For today, I really want to focus on the project proposal template. It looks like this. It has a primary driver at the top. This is the one we wrote together in January. And then it has space to write a driver for the proposal itself and to fill out these fields. Over time, we can document what our expectations are for these fields. But we're starting from this really simple place, okay, of just providing the space, and now we can start working into this. Now, because I have an account in this organization, I'm not just going to use the public template. I'm actually going to jump to the projects board, where we can see that there's one project already in progress. This is the one that was approved yesterday, right? Notion plus accounts for contributors. There are some next steps already listed in this one. When I scroll down to the bottom, I can see there's a couple of tasks. Publish the proposal template so that anyone can copy it. Actually, that's what I just showed you guys. That's done. Start organizing this Notion. No, that's not done yet. And then there's some other possible questions here. In addition to, there's some other responsibilities. For example, education circle, sharing things with the rest of the team. So there's some work ahead on this, but you can start to see how we go naturally from the proposal document into work that's in progress. And now we want to start this process over again with a brand new project. This is the list of projects we're currently working on. When I click new, I get a new project with the template right here. And its status is automatically proposal, because that's what this is right here, right? So now I'm in the proposal phase. And I'm going to call this one Deliver Plutus PBL 2024. Okay.
I'm
It's
doing
always
the
nice.
cheer. I'm doing the cheer emoji. I'm doing the cheer emoji.
It's a proposal. It's underway. So it's always nice to review the primary driver and just notice what words stand out, providing open, replicable, safe spaces to learn, explore, empower individuals and organizations anywhere so that we can solve meaningful problems. When I read that, I feel excited to start writing a proposal because in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, that is why I want to build Plutus PBL 2024. Yes, that does align with the driver. The problem is that vibe is only in my head right now. And I want to make sure that I communicate it and show the connection to that as I get into this proposal. Because if I write a good proposal, other people should start to have the same feeling, right? Yeah, that is what we got to do. Let's do it. Come on. Okay, so now why? Driver. Let's jump back to Miro for just a second. And what was a driver? We've got that over here. Driver. We talked about the driver mapping process. And sure, we wrote this one right here. And then we've got these notes. Here it is, right? So this is the little template provided at this link, s3.org, describe organizational drivers. But we can follow this same kind of process at any scale, even the small scale of an individual project. What's the current situation? What's the effect on the organization? What's the need and what will the impact be? And we don't have to be too strict about perfectly answering every one of these questions. This just gives us a frame to try to write a useful driver statement. Now, current situation, it's not exactly synonymous, but there's often overlap between tensions and describing the current situation, right? And I know this from relationships, right? If there's something we got to talk about, you said we got to talk about something, there must be a tension here, right?
Oh, yeah.
So often when we choose to describe the current situation, our instinct is to be talking tensions in the first place. So we're going to see a little overlap there. And what's awesome is that we do, here's an example of a tension. Hey, things are unfinished from 2023. We want to continue. And Claudio mentioned, maybe there are different PBL courses we need, right? Maybe I could reframe that as a tension. Plutus PBL doesn't have to do everything, right? Can we have other courses that allow people to focus on only this or only that? And whether we call this a tension or just a place we want to get to, we know that it's great to create space for people to get together and practice, learn, do the projects together. So yeah, how can we maximize that space? How can we talk study groups or some structure like that? So these are all things we might want to bring in to our proposal. What's the current situation? We built a version of Plutus PBL 2023 in 2023, but the work is unfinished. Also, PPBL 2023, let's put a little parenthetical thing. PPBL 2023 is out of date, right? And needs to be updated.
And about the lessons, some lessons can be built in a better way, more succinct, more concrete. For example, my lesson about it, for example, needs a complete refreshment to deliver more succinct content, more specific content.
How should keep it going? Oh, sorry, Seb.
Yes, and talking about my lesson, but if you check all the tutorial, that version needs a check of a review of the lessons.
Harsha,
So specifically when you're writing proposal drivers, are you only writing it based on how relevant it is to the primary driver of Gimbalabs, or do you think it also makes sense to involve personal drivers? Like how does it make sense to me personally?
think in the drafting process, sharing our personal view of something is priceless. And I would encourage everybody to do that because you never know who's going to relate to the thing that you're raising. So yeah, do you have something more specific on that perspective?
I don't. I was just curious if you had like something that you would want to add, like why you want to work on this or something like that. I was just curious.
Cool. Yeah. So that's a great point, right? Like, is it helpful to refer to some of this language? Probably. Yeah, let's figure that out together.
And yep, and like I think that because that definitely does, the primary driver definitely spurs on or inspires. And it helps me to feel safe about like saying, oh yeah, we want to make sure that it aligns. But in that first sort of thing, I think again, something from S3 is just like surface the tensions. It's like what's going on. And then it's even farther down in the proposal, like the current situation. Background rationale. There's one that was like, what's happening now? And what's happening now is that people are taking it and getting stuck. So there's like revision, and that's what Pabon was saying. You know, I guess in the bullet, yeah, people are currently working through it and getting stuck, and for various reasons. But one of the reasons is a lot of the dependencies have changed. So for instance, that whole big thing with Nix, and getting the setup. So it's like updating. Just saying, okay, this is the Nix flake or the Nix package that you need to use, and it's no longer the top of the heap. You have to go back and find the right code, or name for the type that you want, and but then also the structure, of the instruction can be updated. It's not just, so it's like, yeah, updating the individual modules, because of the situation that people are getting stuck. Yeah.
There's dependencies, there's versions, and a lot of overlap between those. But there's also, we've all learned. We know better ways that we want to teach things. And for example, you just mentioned Nix. We've had a lot of collective experience to figure out, hey, maybe we don't want to ask people to install Nix as early in the course.
Right. And then that gets us into those sort of side quest type of things, because Nix, I know that Alex is here, and I think Alex uses, or one of the more developer-y folk, is using Nix as their OS, and so there's like, lots of fun side quest, which sort of in the driver is like that empowering individual. So it's just like, oh yeah, like this is a course that doesn't tell you have to do it this way. Like it's not empowering the organization, well, empowering individuals and organizations, but it uses that decentralized model of like, hey, you are empowered here to learn in this new way. It's a different innovation. We don't have the innovation in the primary driver, but that's one of the things that we do, is like trying to do things in new, learn new things in new ways.
It's
Yes,
fun to
yes.
connect
Get it
this,
in.
right? Like, look, hey, if people are getting stuck in our flagship course, that's not a safe space to learn, and we're not empowering anybody. Cool.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so that needs, and it's interesting because when you're in a community that cares, and I think that's one of the things, because when people did get stuck, they showed up and then there were 3 people to help. So that's sort of the safe spot. But it's like, now it's up to us to, like, even out that sharp curve in the course so that people don't go off the rails and, stay in the safe zone where things are going. But that being said, going off the rails is part of the learning process, and getting picked up and helped is part of the learning process. So we won't fix everything. That's, there will be new things to fix, but let's try to find the next thing. It won't be next this season. It'll be something else that's, that goes wonky or gets out of shape.
Well said. Yes. Harsha.
Again, this is just an opinion, but currently in our proposal driver, it's not final, but I feel like we are mixing the tension and the driver. Do you think it would make more sense to separate them?
Yeah, and this is you're experiencing like me as a writer, and I don't write the way everybody likes to. Sometimes I put a lot of different bullet points on a page, and then I one by one like remove the bullet points as I turn it into a paragraph. Right. So that we all have our different writing processes, and for me, like throwing it all on the page is one way to do it. But yeah, if you saw somebody else facilitating this, you might see them grab the sentence stems. But let's try to get there. There was one more point I wanted to add, which Claudio kind of touched on, and it's this concept that Plutus PBL 2023 is about a lot more than Plutus.
Yeah.
And do we maybe want to split the course into more focused, smaller courses, right? And so instead of trying to build one big PPBL, we build a set of courses that people can move through in different orders or towards different specialties.
So the way it's set up now is that sort of those levels, the onboarding, building background knowledge, specialization, contributing. I'm looking at the course now. And are we thinking maybe change the structure? And this is sort of like, this goes into that, this is the current situation as it is now. And that's that, like when we're proposing redevelopment, it's like, how are we going to take it down to the metal? Are we just going to fix up the cracks? Are we, like what's the scope of our revision? Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we're getting to.
And even this is probably too specific for the driver itself, but it's a concept I might copy and paste down to the detail.
Yeah, and that's what Harsha is saying. And what you're saying is, it's like, well, no, let's just try to get everything in. And we could just change the title of this. Instead of proposal driver, it's like proposal brainstorm or proposal thoughts. Tensions, situations. What are the other things that we put in so far?
And
but yeah.
Well, so now we've got some raw material, and for everybody else, some of us, including Harsha and Newman and I, have been practicing like some S3 stuff. Sebastian's been attending some of that. And one of the things we've done is taken time to try writing driver statements based on a conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a minute to try one, but if you want to throw one in the chat or anywhere else or on the Miro board, we can look at that too. But let me just give this a try, right? I think we've got some good raw material. So currently, Plutus, the Gimbalabs Plutus PBL course is out of date and needs revision. the current course does not support students to learn up-to-date Cardano development skills, and often students get stuck. The effect is that Gimbalabs does not currently have an up-to-date course for onboarding new contributors. We need to update Plutus PBL to a 2024 version, and perhaps to consider what some other PBL courses could be. By attending to this need, we will continue to provide safe spaces to learn and courses that empower individuals to contribute. As a first draft, that's what I came up with. So now we can look at this and collectively we can ask, well, how does this sound? Does this feel like it captures the most important stuff of why we're doing this project? Or would you change anything about this driver?
What do you think? I'm still looking up like it's so silly. Like trying to find the link to that part in the rule book. I'm like the game master that's like always flipping through the tables and like, where's the thing? Oh, okay. But yeah, that's what I'm looking up.
Yeah. And this is one of my personal current struggles with S3, is that if I was writing this document alone, I wouldn't spend too long on the driver yet, because I still have a whole document ahead of me. But when we do S3 collaboratively, we often wait until this is perfect before we start drafting things. And that just goes against the way I operate. And I'm wondering how we can find the sweet spot of saying, hey, this is a draft. Is it good enough to keep writing the document versus this is the final driver? Is it good enough for us all to consent to and actually move forward with the work?
Yeah, sort of iterative, like, so instead of having, perfect is the enemy of good, type of thing, the more action, less conversation type of, like get this good enough to try, safe enough for now. That's the kind of, it's like getting to that with this organizational driver description. And this is from the rule book. An organizational driver is any situation where the organization's members have a motive to respond. And we definitely have a motive to respond because this is our flagship course, because they anticipate that doing so would be beneficial to the organization, helping generate value, eliminate waste, avoid undesirable risks or consequences. Yeah. So it's just like we're getting specific to why this is important to make these revisions, so that when we're writing this proposal or everything else in this project, it can kind of keystone or align and focus.
I am actually with you on that, James, specifically because when we present a proposal, it's almost like a draft, because through the consent process, it like is fine-tuned by itself, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. We're writing a proposal together right now, but eventually myself or somebody else will present this to the rest of the group formally as a proposal, right? And at that stage, we do have to get consent to this driver, and we do have to resolve clarifying questions and objections about the proposal itself. So that's coming. But in this shared space where we're actually drafting a proposal together, I want to keep learning how to balance my understanding that time for clarification and objections is ahead of me, while also kind of engaging in the revision process. So here's what that would look like. If I was working by myself right now, here's what I would do. I would just, well, title, I can do that. Develop Plutus PBL 2024, something like that. And now a lot of this stuff is actually background and rationale. So I could just drag it. This is a nice thing about Notion. Just drag and drop stuff around the page. Okay, there's my draft of my driver. That's there. Some of this won't belong here anymore, but at least I moved it and this is starting to take shape. Let me just think about outcomes for a minute, right? What needs to happen as a result of this proposal? Well, we would have Plutus PBL 2024 will be published live and freely available to learners. Okay. What else? Maybe something about the Gimbalabs Education Circle. We'll establish processes for building courses together, and we'll at least consider other possible PBL courses. What are some outcomes?
Yeah, so like from the lens of the community and onboarding and trust building circle, there's a ton of things. It provides activities for the community to do, either as learners or contributors, like building, supporting. So community contribution focus provides activities for the community to do. As learners, as support, like what we're doing now, it's giving us a focus to, practice our governance and work through our new proposal, project management tool. It's an objective for the community, okay? And then for onboarding, it gives new people something to that, because that's how I showed up here. The PBBL is a wonderful first introduction to Gimbalabs. It's just like, if you're interested in Web3 and building, it's an onboarding tool or activity. And it promotes that trust building, because you see someone that's dedicatedly going through the course and you find out who they are, as opposed to, they retweeted and they signed up and, like did something else in the sort of Web3 trust building way. I wonder about the other, like through the lens of sustainability and funding, through builders and contributing and doing, through outreach and advocacy, through, education, learning and teaching, like all those different lenses, there'll be outcomes for every circle.
Mhm. Yeah, does anybody have any outcomes on behalf of those other circles?
I really like what Newman said, and I think if I shut up long enough, somebody will tell the thing I want to tell, because maybe the intended outcome of PBL is for a student to get stuck and to reach out to Gimbalabs.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, I like playing with words too, right? So up above, we recognize that there is this permanent stuckness that's not safe, but temporary stuck, that is always part of the philosophy.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it really is. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's only like I think the thing that kind of degrades developer experience is if a person just invested a lot of time into doing something, being stuck, and then you tell them, "Oh, but this thing is broken. You have to start over again," and this is really annoying. So we have to avoid this. But otherwise, I think getting stuck is a pretty like good thing.
Definitely part of the learning process. And one of the things about one of the first Gimbalabs sort of trust building activities that I felt is when I showed up, I got stuck, went through the course, somebody had recommended it. We had done, or Gimbalabs had done like some outreach. Like, so there was like an after town hall, and maybe James was on came to the C4C, the Cardano for Climate group or somewhere, and they were like, "Hey, we've got this free course. If you're interested in building or finding out, you can do this thing." And then of course I got there and got stuck, and when came to a live coding, so it gave me a reason to come to basically an onboarding event. And then James was like, "Well, it's actually not really about like learning to build stuff. It's actually finding problems and solving them." And I was like, "Oh, that really meshes with my learning." And it's really in our primary Gimbalabs primary driver with the solve meaningful problems. So it's one of those things to help you find problems to solve, and that's the general learning juice, like that thing in us that motivates is finding a problem and a problem to solve that is solvable, and there's friends on the same quest, so that we've got like a network effect of people focused on these problems to solve.
All of that maps directly to navigating the attention as well. It's
Exactly.
two different ways to name the same productive space.
Yeah.
I don't see many possibilities with a single PBL, in this case the Plurus PBL. I see a huge amount of possibilities when we have a whole uh, a whole structure of PBLs in about many topics, from technical topics I can match, etc., Go, etc., to Catalyst and this intersect and all this governance and all of this thing. Maybe we should try to make the building of the Plurus PBL process more efficient or more fluid in some way and replicable to start applying that same process to other topics: Dandelion, Match, Aiken, Catalyst, a, a wide variety of PBLs can offer to the people and us the opportunity to explore what happened when we have all this cluster of PBLs. Maybe in the previous period we don't need to teach everything about Cardano or about developing. Maybe we just need to teach essentials and continue with the next PBL.
Alex.
Yeah, all right. So just Sebastian was talking about efficient teaching, and I just retrospect about my path in Cardano. And I think two good intended outcomes of Pulse PBL would be one is to introduce the student to the vesting contract, which is pretty well documented. At the moment is a kind of baseline for documentation, and it's used it's the one which is useful on one side, because one thing that confused me a lot, maybe it was intended, but like always succeeds contract, which was at the Plutus PBL when I came to Gimbalabs, it's hard to see, like it's too abstract. You have to have something more concrete. Investing, I think, and the guessing game as well, because also it has this remark, that yeah, it's actually a contract, but it doesn't work because like you're not supposed to put secrets on there. So vesting is pretty good, and I found it and intuitive, and it's nice. So that's one thing. And the second thing, after they kind of students see the vesting contract and see how it works, maybe the next good idea is to connect them to the repository, which is Cardano Plutus use cases, so that people can see other ways what they can do with smart contracts, because this is the kind of thing that we try to build, a smart contract ecosystem, right? So maybe it would be a good kind of late stage or middle stage PBL module to have this students interact with this kind of technology.
And the approach is saving us 2-3 steps in the process. Those two or three steps we can apply. We can invest the energy in our processes, in the same processes, but apply to other areas.
So at this point in the writing process, once again, there's more raw material under each of these that I might start to rearrange, but that's kind of the beauty of this. Okay, so now one of the ways I'm thinking about starting to organize things a little bit is there's always an overlap between details and timeline. And you could start with really either one, right? At some point, you're going to say, okay, well, here's the details. Here's how we're actually going to accomplish this proposal. And then at a certain time, you'll want to put those details, those things you're going to do in time-bound buckets. So I'm going to start here and then maybe grab some stuff from here and think about details. But as with any course, right, step one is to write a revised list of modules and SLTs, student learning targets, SLTs, for PPBL 2024. It would be really cool if this was a collaborative place to start. And so maybe a step before writing that list would be to convene a PPBL 2024 planning team, right? But maybe that's too specific because we're kind of starting to talk about writing others. So maybe it's just, well, convene the Gimbalabs Education Circle, right? And so you can see how there's always going to be this web of dependencies and choices to make as you start to build a proposal. That's true about any proposal. But maybe we do something like that to start this work. The first thing we do is with the following outcomes, right? One, or we had outcomes above. How about tasks? Write a revised list of modules. Create a list of other PBL courses that could be linked from Plutus PBL. And the reason I'm writing this is because I agree completely with Sebastian and Alex, what you're bringing with the concept of how we split these things up. I think that Plutus PBL can definitely try to do less, and that it should point people out to deeper experiences elsewhere. Okay. So for example, Mesh PBL is already a work in progress. The Mesh team had a Fund 10 proposal, and there's a group of people working on that course together. What does this mean? Well, it means that if we taught as much Mesh in Plutus PBL 24, we would just be redundant. So in this example, I think it'd be really cool to have maybe just a single lesson about Mesh. Hey, Plutus PBL student, here's a thing called Mesh. Here's a very quick example of what it does and how you can use it. And here's a link to a dedicated course about that topic. I can imagine that, right? And so that's what I mean by making that list, because once we have that, now we can be looking at the list of what we're not going to try to do in this course, but it can also be linked to the list of learning targets that we do cover in the course. And by thinking at that high level first, we can start to see a really clear picture of the network of courses we're going to build. And then we can start tackling them one at a time. But even as I say all of that, maybe a prerequisite to writing that list is decide on the scope of PPBL 2024. What are we trying to accomplish, right? So writing the list of modules and learning targets, deciding on scope, and thinking about the other courses these might all happen. Maybe we could argue that the order should be different, so we can play around with whether or not this order or that order feels better. Cool. But at some point, we will have this high-level stuff done, and then we will say, all right, well, maybe we call this phase one. Phase one, convene the group and start the work. Phase two, write the Plutus PBL 2024 course. And this could have some steps underneath it. And then finally, phase three would be provide live coding and support for students enrolled in PPBL 2024. Something's starting to take shape here. How's everybody feeling? How do these phases feel? Are there, would you do these three big picture things in any different orders, or are there important phases of work missing from this list?
Oh, the one that I described is really getting the word out. So at some point, there was some awareness and outreach, and that was helpful to me last year. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be huge, but it was like, I think there was an after town hall, and and then there was just like community sessions where people went out and said, hey, look, this is an opportunity. It's free, gives you a chance to collaborate, contribute, learn these technical details in a cohort or with a group of people that are, and there's a community here. Yeah. And I would hate for that to like not get in, because that was really great.
Love that. So I thought that maybe fit between 2 and 4 now. Right? We write the course, and then we get the word out, and then as we're getting the word out, we provide support. Does the ongoing rollout feel good to people? So in prior years, what we've done is we've published the course outline, and then we go live with the first module or 2. So now the course is out there, and then we publish the new modules on a weekly basis as the team has the capacity to do it. How does that approach feel? This is something I could add here, for example, right? Like we could say, create a course, a public release schedule for course modules. Start rolling out. Videos. Often before I write lessons, I like to build examples. So there's some fun development work that happens first, right? Now that once you have a list of modules, you know what you're going to teach. Now we can, maybe in open spaces, for example, look at a module, look at the learning targets together and say, hey, what would be a cool little technical example to show people to achieve this thing? You build it together, and then just by the process of building it, you're writing the lesson in your head. And then after, fresh off that building, now you've got some examples to show people. It is PBL after all. Now you just write the lesson, you make a video about it. So there's the writing part, awareness and outreach, and then live coding sessions can pick up, and we'll need a time, right? And this might raise new tensions. Like, for example, does Gimbalabs provide both open spaces and live coding? We got to figure that out before we get to this point. So there'll be a little bit of Gimbalabs calendar work to do collectively. But at a high level, this to me feels like an outline of what we're going to do. And you can see how we could write a timeline from this. Okay, phase 1 is going to happen during these months, and phase 2, et cetera. I could take the timeline on my own, but I would love some wisdom here, right? What are the impact and benefits of this work? So do any of our bullet points up here actually really kind of answer that question? What's the impact and benefits? This one, for example.
Yeah. It grows the community, meaning that new people will onboard.
Community growth.
Yeah.
People are empowered to solve problems, ideally.
Yeah.
We can be redundant here, and we can always clean up things later. We get to practice working together.
Right. Right.
And I could say more specifically than we, Gimbalabs and Education Circle get to practice working together. Other impacts or benefits that are worth naming.
Well, we get, new smart contract, Cardano, UTXO smart contract builders and the people that love them, and it's like getting to understand the UTXO model in a very real way. Yeah, is a benefit. Just understanding it, not that we build, super duper smart contract app developers, dApp developers, but we get people who understand this new ledger model, and hopefully once we kind of understand it, then it makes more sense, the innovations that come, and we get people that can see, that recognize, oh, right, this is innovative, this is a thing. And just the not just UTXO, but just blockchain in general.
Yeah.
Distributed, decentralized networks, as we do decentralization in our governance and our community, in our learning, that's a benefit, I think. I mean, it benefits the student. I mean, there's those student benefits. Ooh, I see
yeah.
Harsha.
Harsha.
So so specifically for this proposal, it's a proposal that upgrades the PPBL 2023 to 2024, right? So the impacts and benefits seem, to me at least, like they're as relevant to PPBL 2023 as it is to 2024. So I was wondering if the impact should be specific to the upgrades, how the upgrades create impact.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And so I added this one to the top, right? Like, it's worth it to say the obvious stuff. We want the course. I don't care what year it is. We want an up-to-date version of it. That would be a benefit.
Yeah.
And we can think about the awareness of the people outside of the ecosystem. For example, we can envision a future where some people say, okay, before this PPBL thing, I didn't touch a single bit of a cryptocurrency or something like that. But today, I think this cryptocurrency thing has some purpose besides the speculation or this and all this noise. So maybe we can imagine a future like that when people get literacy, but at the same time some kind of trust in the technology, on the technology.
Newman, I was really excited to hear this part, like about us building a better understanding of the UTXO model, because this is kind of where we can now like revisit some of the other high level goals, or revisit a question like this: what's the scope of PPBL 2024?
Right.
Right. And for me, this is at the heart of it. My main goal in whatever this intro level course is that people build a mental model of UTXOs and transactions, because it's really hard to conceptualize what a validator is before you do that. Now, this raises a new question. Is Plutus PBL the right name for the course in the first place?
Oh,
right?
okay.
We call it something like Cardano Developer Onboarding PBL. Now, I have a very strong opinion. I like Plutus PBL. I think the alliteration and the brevity of it is great. And I don't have a problem as a teacher doing a little bit of a bait and switch, naming something one thing, but then once people start working through it, finding out on their own terms that that name is not entirely accurate. We played this game with 3 ways to mint an NFT, right? We had a module called 3 ways to mint an NFT, but what was the module really about? Standards. Okay. This is not a trick you want to overuse, but it's also, I think it's fair. So I'm still for Plutus PBL from those two perspectives. It's elegant and has alliteration, and people will get in the door and learn what we really mean. But I would be open to deciding to call it something else. Any strong feelings either way on that one?
Yeah. I didn't even really think about that, but it is, yeah. I think that's pretty valid as a teacher trick. As long as it's not overused, sure. But that is interesting. Like, really, what is it that you're learning? Yeah, I can agree to keep it Plutus PBL, even if it's just for the legacy aspect of it, like this is
Actually coming full circle, if I really think about it, it actually is an accurate name, because even though, and anybody who took the course last year saw this, even though technically Plutus TX isn't the only smart contract programming language, all of them compile to Plutus Core. And that's what actually goes on chain. So it actually, it's in that sense kind of fine. And everything we're going to teach you in this course is how to get to Plutus Core, untyped Plutus Core, UPLC, and then how to use it to build an actual application. So in a roundabout way, it might actually be the most accurate thing to call it, but it's a fun thing to play with. Anything based learning is powerful. Perhaps we use it together all the time. Okay, so suffice to say, we can see a proposal taking shape here. And my goal between now and when we get together again next Wednesday is to finish drafting this proposal. There's also some other concerns coming our way, specifically regarding some other courses. And I'll be sharing some stuff about calendars and potential live coding as well over the next week. We're finally getting to this point of having stood up this community way of doing things at Gimbalabs over these first 2 months of the year. And this month, we get to see how it starts to pay off as we get into critical work. This is my top priority, and I'll be excited to share that this proposal is drafted. Let's certainly before Wednesday, actually, because I want to follow through on that goal of giving people time to read things. And we'll certainly need to refine this, and we can either choose to refine this in a whole group setting like this Open Spaces, or in a breakout room dedicated to Education Circle. But thanks for the help getting this started. And I hope more than anything that this session gave everybody here a way to start conceiving of how you'll write your own proposals. We didn't get to resources required, which is the time and money part. That part's really fun. And the responsibilities part, where we actually start naming people and circles who are responsible. So these are really great things to do collaboratively. I'll draft some of this and this and this, but expect to hear from people about how you want to evaluate this thing, what you see as the risks, and how we should plan to review the proposal. But given the time we've got, thanks for a good start today. We got 5 minutes for a super quick checkout round. Let's zip around the circle. Juan, how you leaving us today?
So this
Let's hear it. Or let's go with Juan Matos first.
Go Matos.
Go ahead, Juan. You first.
Okay, yeah, thank you, James and Juan. Yeah, I mean, I really use this time to internalize the process and learn a lot about Notion. And yeah, it's a great beginning for writing proposals. Great. I feel like I'm very enlightened and motivated. Yeah, thanks.
Nice partner. All right, we'll kick it to Juan.
Yeah, for me it was cool just getting a chance to like see and hear people's train of thoughts and how like the whole thing is coming together from a whole bunch of different perspectives and skill sets. So this was pretty exciting. So thanks, James, for the invite, man. I appreciate it.
Really fun to have you here. See you soon. Alex, then Newman.
I like that I could make something in the conversation, so that's good. Thanks.
And great documentation, super great. I think this would be really cool to show to the S3 group. Yeah, we're doing it. That's fantastic. This is my favorite. My favorite. This is what I've been wanting to get to all the time. Cool. We're doing it.
Well said. Mix and then Sebastian.
It was good meeting. It was really fun and interesting to watch how these proposals are getting formed. And several times I wanted to participate as kind of remind a point I made last week, that the proposal you guys are writing for a developer is a pseudocode for a smart contract. So all the discussion you guys have and all the things you were putting in that proposal basically can be applied to a logical business logic into code. And it is an actual discussion for a developer. Should we have this on the contract? Should not? If yes, what would be the consequences and all this thing? But since I didn't want to kind of interfere into that process and like kind of narrow your mind because of saying this is kind of pseudocode, but I like that the discussion you guys maybe wasn't very technical, but indeed it was technical. But you maybe you guys didn't realize, but it was really great and fun to watch. Thank you.
Incredible.
Fantastic. Really good session is very different when the learning process is very different when you have a use case, a specific use case, and see the progress on the use case. It's like Alex said before, it's different. The always succeeds contracts is different from a specific contract with a specific variables and a concrete use case. That keeps your mind alert. Thank you.
You're saying we can't just change Catalyst to be always succeeds all the time? Because that would be, I wouldn't mind that voting.
Okay, that's
That would be awesome.
Martin and then Adrian. Oh, you're muted. Martin, we're not getting sound.
Oh, I clicked it, but it didn't work.
Hey.
Better? Yeah,
Yep.
it was good to follow along and see this process. It's interesting to see that you can, in this way, put a lot of people headed in a productive direction. I think that is something really needed and yeah, really fits well with crypto. So
Thank you. Adrian, then Ken.
I think it was a really productive meeting, and also to add to Mix, yeah, I think we already have some of the tools, at least the treasury where we can put some proposals. Yeah.
Can't wait. Ken and then Claudio.
Yeah, it was good. I think the way that I sort of think about things is slightly different. I've been thinking a lot about how do you combine the process of directing your goals with actually doing the work. And so when you spend a lot of time thinking about the path that you're taking, you're making assumptions about where you're going to be at each step in the process, and that might cause extra work that isn't necessarily required. So I don't know. I'm interested in spending time thinking about that in the future, but it's good to see the process that's in place and how other people think about solving these problems.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you. Claudio, then Harsha.
It was pretty nice to see. I think luckily James and I think to be he's going in the same direction I was hoping the reorganization of the PBL course would go. So I was glad to see that. So I hope we can continue in that direction. I think we'll get to something good. It will be a lot of hard work, you know, that's what scares me. It looks very nice to write a proposal and all the desiderata and wish lists. And now to get the actual work done and coordinating it will be really, really tough. But, you know, we'll have fun along the way.
We'll find out if it works. That's really cool. Yeah. Harsha.
I actually really enjoyed the process because when individuals write a proposal and then consent on it, I feel like by the end of the day, it takes the same amount of time. Uh, Here we are starting with consent as the step one and like building the proposal together. So I thought it was really fun.
Thanks. Well said. And Nelson.
Hey guys, yeah, it was a good session. I think we had some progress on how PPBL of 2024 is heading. I was a student of PPL 2022, so like it's really great how this is starting to be, and I really want to be a part of, you know, just a little bit of contribution to guiding the coming students over this course and even making some content for this course. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Thanks everyone.
Gimbalabs class of 2022. I love that. And yeah, Harsha, I really appreciate that last point too, because you're right. I enjoyed this process as well today. And I tried to think out loud a little bit about the distinction between writing collectively and together, but absolutely what you said resonates, because even though we're not formally engaging in the consent process yet, it felt really good to kind of validate a few ideas along the way. And we'll see if that leads to more efficient consent processes. So yeah, I already have some concepts validated, and that's going to make me more confident finishing up this proposal. And I can't wait to put a first draft in front of everybody. So thanks. All right, here's to it, to the work of planning, and like Claudio said, to the scary work of actually doing. I'm here for it. I'm excited to see what happens over the next few weeks. And thanks all for this time yesterday and today. Till next time, have a good one.
Bye.